Greetings, sunshines and sunnies. It is I, Queen J Lotus, Pimp Sunkiss, coming at y'all right quick, right fast, maybe, with a deep dive reading on your girl, Caresha Please, aka Young Miami, born as Caresha Romika Brownlee. And I'm going to tap a little bit on her spiritual identity, but for the most part, I'm going to be unpacking the happenings of it all and her involvement, if you will, in her connection with your boy Sean Puffy Combs. And this is off the backs of me taking some social media suggestions of what people would like to have me spiritually unpack. And so here we are. And once this buddy, aka viewer, specifies to me whether or not they would like a shout out, I may do it in the comments and or tag them in the post. But without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get into. And we kicking it off with me asking spirit to show me Carisha's higher self, her shadow self, and her leading motto at heart. So we're going to start off with the card to the left, which is the Ten of Wands in reverse, and it is representing Carisha's higher self. Now, I hate to say it, but while the Ten of Wands in reverse can represent somebody who is very selfless, this is not exactly showing up in the selfless sense. This is showing up that Carisha's higher self is a people pleaser, but is rooted in people pleasing from more of a selfish and like narcissistic lace perspective, whereas she is selfless in the sense of being the life of the party. And this is how it's being channeled. This is how it's coming to me. So I'm going to say allegedly, Lee. Shout out to Alexander Rogers. But this is how it's coming up. This is how it's channeling, honey. So it's coming up as the type of person who is a people pleaser as it concerns, bringing people into the fun, the joy, like I said, life of the party-esque. But at the same time, someone who is a bit of a trauma dumper, someone who dumps their responsibilities onto other people, and someone who more so does for people for what they can get out of it and to say that they did it. Someone who would do things for you and throw it back in your face when it's convenient or on mad day type shit. Okay. Now we're gonna jump on over to the right, and this is the Knight of Wands. Got another Wands card here. So there's a lot of overactivity here. We're gonna hold that thought real quick. But the Knight of Wands is representing her shadow self. And being the fact that this is representing her shadow self, we have to read this Knight of Wands as if it is in the reverse position, even though it's showing right side up. Now, there's still something to that, right? The Knight of Wands in reverse represents somebody who is very arrogant, someone who is a user, someone who may be very violent and aggressive and abusive, someone who is overly competitive, obsesses over being on top, but because the arrogance is a false sense of confidence and they get a false sense of power from being abusive and aggressive, they never really make it to the authentic power of it all. They never really make it to the King of Wands or the Queen of Wands type of position. They always remain a knight. And knights take orders more than they give them. Now, again, this Knight of Wands came up right side up, even though it's representing the shadow self, and therefore we have to read it from the reverse position. But the symbolism in that as well is, because it is the Knight of Wands, the Knight of Wands also tends to represent a shapeshifter, someone who presents themselves as something that they actually are not. So a loose example of the Knight of Wands as it concerns someone cloaking themselves as something they are not would be Mulan. She went to war and she presented herself as a man, even though she is a woman. Okay. So some sort of that could be present in Carisha, whereas she may lead with a lot of false masculine energy, shadow masculine energy, toxic masculine energy. When in actuality, she's a woman, and in actuality, and this is not to say that woman and coward are adjacent to each other, because I don't believe that at all. Okay, so just keep up with me, right? Carisha may use all that aggression and abusive nature to cloak the fact that she is actually a coward. And she may also use her femininity, her feminine aspects, her baby face, the fact that it would be easy to infantilize her from her having like a baby face, being, very small set as far as her body, using a infantile-like voice to cloak the fact that she may actually be a wolf in sheep's clothing, and or presenting herself to be more naive than she actually is, presenting herself to be more ignorant than she actually is. So this will be someone who acts like They don't know anything. They don't know why things happen the way that they happen. They don't understand the chain of command and all this, that, and the third. But in actuality, they are one of the main puppeteers of a situation, one of the main movers and shakers of an operation. Now, this card in the middle is representing Caresha's leading motto through her life. Get the fuck outside, move your ass. Again, overactivity. This card sounds like a whole lot of fun, but the energy that is coming off is more so, we're cloaking this as a good time, but it's really a whole lot of shit that'll get you in trouble. It gives I'm being fed a scene from the movie Hustlers where they prey on the guys and they present to them a good time. Come on, come party with us. We're just gonna have a good time, da 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 da. And they get those guys all drugged up, and then they steal their wallet, steal their card, and they steal a load of money from them. Now, I am not saying specifically that this is what Caresha has done. This is the energy, and this is the imagery that has been channeled through me from divine source. Okay? Allegedly, Lee. Shout out to Alexander Rogers. This is what the divine realm, from my perspective, is sending through me. Okay? The other side of that card says, your body is pissed at you. Again, the front side of this card, as it's being channeled and represented in this particular layout, seems like a good time. Much like I said about that Ten of Wands in reverse, as it represents Caresha's higher self. It seems like a good time. Seems like a good party. But the other side, your body is pissed at you. That's the consequence. This also gives that Caresha may experience a lot of bodily pain, soreness, inflammation of some sort. She may do things to cope with that. And also, this could be something that people experience after partying with her. Bodily pains, headaches. I'm being fed anal pain for some reason. This is what's coming up. Allegedly, Lily. Okay. Other inflammatory pain. Now I'm not trying to put nothing on her. I'm not saying, this comes from her directly, but I'm also seeing and hearing STDs. Okay, allegedly, Lily, allegedly. Shout out to Alexander Rogers. But that's what's come up in this layout, and I'm going to leave it at that. And we're going to go ahead and hop into the next layouts that will potentially elaborate and expand the perspective of this layout. Okay, and let me be clear. I'm not trying to beat nobody down for nothing. Okay, this is not to attack. This is not to kick anybody while they're down. I am just channeling and delivering the messages that are being channeled and energy transferred through me from the divine realm through these cards. All right. So again, allegedly, Lily, allegedly. And we're going to go ahead and hop into the next layout. Okay, before we get into this layout, I want to further clarify. I am neither a fan or a foe of Young Miami, Caresha, the City Girls. I heard some of their songs or whatever, but they not people that I just listen to on a regular basis or really indulge in. Diddy either, like talking about, I hear the stuff they said, but I don't really indulge in their art or, whatever, like talking about. So I'm just further clarifying that this is a non-biased reading and delivery of messages. I don't have no dog in this fight, and I simply believe in what's right, and I'm doing right by the gifts that the Most High bestowed upon me. Okay? So I'm again, allegedly, Lily. Shout out to Alexander Rogers. Now, for this layout, we are tapping into the truth of Young Miami, Caresha, Romika Brownlee's relationship with Diddy. The truth of her relationship with Sean John Combs. And what we have here is, to the left of them, we have judgment in reverse. And right off the backs, I'm getting that Caresha has found herself in connection with Diddy through a lapse in judgment. Spirit is telling me that she more than likely has poor judgment, and this could come from some sort of pathology, some sort of culture of her family. So there may be a lot of people like Diddy in her family, and therefore, because she's been taught and encouraged to love them because or in spite of whatever darkness they come with, it's lapsed her judgment, and therefore she may relate to him to a fault. So that's essentially giving some information on how she may have ended up bonding with him. So this could also be a trauma bond. And being the fact that this is the judgment card, something about this is giving divine intervention. Okay, and then in the middle there, we have an art card, which is the kitchen table card. It came out sideways. So I'm hearing out the frying pan and into a fire. Again, this is giving strong energy of coming off the backs of a pathology. I'm hearing generational curse. I'm hearing toxic culture of her family. And this is having to do with lack mentality, impoverishment, impoverished mentality. I'm also picking up financial and materialistic abuse. So this is giving me that Caresha is likely stuck in survival mode where she is constantly trying to not go back to where she came from. So while there seems to be a normalized toxicity going on with her, some part of her spirit recognizes the wrong in it and seems like she's been in a constant state of trying to run away from it. But in some way, she doesn't realize that she's become what she despises in some way. And therefore, she keeps attracting the same thing over and over again, but in worse form. Shout out to Future. But she doesn't recognize that she's constantly jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire because she thinks it's better because there's more food, there's more money, there's more shiny stuff. There seems to be a better lifestyle attached to it, even though it's rooted in the same darkness and the same toxicity, and therefore actually worse in some way because of how, we're just gonna be straight up about it, because of how Diddy uses his abundance. Okay? Whew, goodness. Now, hopping over to the Seven of Pentacles, and it is also sideways. And you can very clearly see the imagery of that card is a girl watering a tree, which is essentially a money tree. You could also see it as a feminine tree, a fruit tree. So this also gives that a part of Caresha's attachment to him is for, and it goes back to that Ten of Wands in reverse, releasing her burdens unto him. Therefore, him being like a sugar daddy, a strong investor into her lifestyle, into her needs and desires, her aspirations. She is the tree that he waters. However, she doesn't realize, because mind you, this card is sideways. So it's giving like her perspective is one thing, but what it really is. So she sees it as him watering her, but in actuality, he takes from her. In the midst of watering her, he also is taking from her. And it's like a mutually parasitic type of connection. It's like both of them have intents to take from each other and be watered by each other, but the roots are tainted. The roots are toxic. So the tree only grows to a certain extent and eventually rots at the root and on up. Tisk. Ooh, child. And the number 7 is also a karmic number. So that definitely goes back to the energy of that judgment card that gives divine intervention. So it's like they are mirrors to each other. And something about their connection and the things that they experience with each other and off the backs of each other is meant to teach them something. It's meant to uproot their trees. It's meant to cut off those toxic cycles one way or another, whether they make the decision to stop the toxicity or the divine realm halts it for them. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and hop into the next layout, which is basically kind of elaborating on the divine intervention aspect of it all. But what I ask is, what is their soul contract? So this is more of the spiritual element of the truth of the nature and interaction connection of their relationship. So the first card we have is the Knight of Swords. It's another knight. Okay. And this Knight of Swords is giving, okay, if you look at the imagery of the card, that knight is shoving his sword down his throat. And if you know anything about the swords suit, it has a lot to do with communication, talking, using words. So a part of the soul contract is having to do with the opportunity to reform messages delivered and transferred amongst each other and also to the public. The issue here is Caresha seems to be suppressing some sort of truth. And what I'm picking up here is there is something to do with childhood abuse, some sort of abuse that she may have experienced as a child. And she is suppressing that truth or suppressing a truth about something surrounding it. And that suppression is leading her, or has been leading her, to function in a state of delusion, living a lie, if you will. Therefore, shoving a sword down her throat symbolically to silence herself. And what this ends up causing is her making decisions that ends up also silencing other people with the intent to silence other people and or skew warp certain messages, certain imagery as well that would be shown to the public. So this soul contract is meant to expose truth. Their connection in a spiritual and divine sense, the divine intervention of it all, is meant to expose truth. The issue here is disobedience. It seems as though both of them have been given divine messages, be it through their own psyche, their own conscious, their dreams, and also through other people, from the public, from elders in their life. People have tried to give them divine guidance that has actually been channeled from the divine realm, but they have made choices to be disobedient and continue to shove the sword down their own throats and down other people's throats, and to create smoke and mirror type imagery where it seems like something that is actually not. And we get into, I'm gonna go to the Nine of Cups first. The number nine represents endings. So again, that goes back to what was said about the divine realm having an agenda to bring toxic cycles to an end one way or another. And also them being given specific directions and them being disobedient. So one way or another. And looking at the imagery of this card here as well, especially as it concerns the Nine of Cups in this particular deck, the Mystic Monday deck, you got a heart and you got one big cup in the middle, and then 8 cups that surround all of it. And this can represent an abundance of love. No pun intended, right? Brother love, okay? And that's some of the lies that's been fed. There was potential for this connection to really bring about blended family, like harmonious family connection. It had that potential, but the disobedience of it all and the focus more so, the value more so that the two of them have seemed to have to prefer to act like things are harmonious versus them actually being harmonious is also where the issue lies. So painting this picture of love, ooh, everybody hold hands, kumbaya, everything's cool, we're all blended and everything. But in actuality, there may be a whole lot of chaos, family feuding, bickering, strife behind the scenes. Again, things are not what they seem. Also, Caresha may indeed be a hoe wrangler, because you see that heart and that cup in the middle, surrounded by all the other cups. The heart and the cup in the middle could represent Diddy. The heart itself could represent Diddy, and the cup could represent Caresha, whereas all the other cups that surround it represent, quote unquote, the other hoes. Allegedly, Lee. Okay? So again, that goes back to that Knight of Wands card about seeming, painting this picture that we're oblivious and I'm just here for one thing and I don't know what's going on, when in actuality, you are a mover and a shaker, a puppeteer in the operation. You are a shepherd of the sheep. And the reason why this is showing up in the soul contract, again, is about spirit having an agenda that certain toxic cycles will end one way or another. So you chose not to obey the messages from God to do right by yourself and do right by their word. And so you go ahead. You do what you want to do. You do what you've always done, what you've learned from the toxic pathology of your family. You go ahead and you do that. And the truth will still end up being revealed, and you're just going to have to learn the hard way. And that's also a good segue to the middle card there, the art card at the Moulin Rouge. And, ooh, I ain't gonna lie, Caresha in particular seems to have pissed off some deities. I also want to point out the continuation of the theme of everything is not as it seems. That portrait on that art card is not the full portrait. And that correlates with the fact that the imagery that she and Diddy and the messages that she and Diddy have put out to the world, to their fans, to their followers, to their kids, is not the full picture. And that's so crazy because somebody sent me yesterday, the person that suggested this video actually sent me a video, and Lovely T often talks about this as well, and I have often thought about it myself as it concerns people that promote, what it seems to be whole culture. Whereas, okay, you do what you do, if you want to prostitute yourself, that's, your body, your choice. Please let it be your choice. But also, Don't over glamorize what's actually going on. Tell the truth about the cons of that lifestyle as well. Stop feeding this false imagery that, oh, you just pop your shit, you just cute, and you just get a big bag, blue, blue, blue. No. A lot of people, and as Spirit is feeding it to me, likely, Caresha, allegedly, um, you don't just be pretty. You don't just give your cooch away and just get a bag. No. A lot of you are getting your ass beat. You're getting talked to crazy. You're getting forced to do things that you really wouldn't ordinarily do. You're getting forced to say things and act like you like things that you really don't like. You're just essentially selling your soul for what you feel like you need and desire. And I say this all the time, selling your soul is not always you signing your name in blood on a contract to the Illuminati or whatever, what have you. A lot of the time, it's people selling their morals and values in exchange for shiny shit that just depreciates in value and that you can't take with you and that ain't gonna automatically get you into heaven, let alone bring you peace on earth. Okay? So, with this At the Moulin Rouge card, this again is bringing up that toxic family pathology, where she's likely grown up surrounded by a lot of stripper culture, hoe culture, sex work culture, drug dealing culture of it all. And again, something at heart, seeing something wrong in the way that people have carried it out, but it's still being normalized in her psyche, so much so that while this experience and interaction was meant to enlighten her, was meant to allow her to see the signs and the signals and things that aren't so different, like basically just because a man has money doesn't mean that it's good money, doesn't mean that it leads to good things. A lot of things that she's seen and experienced with Diddy was meant to make it apparent to her that that's not where she wants to be, not even for money, but instead she's made the choice to shove the sword down her throat and skew the messages, delusion herself into believing that because the money is in higher quantity and the material is in higher quality and the lifestyle seems to be much better and much shinier and much fresher, that is okay. That the heinous activity is okay, the abuse is okay, the griminess of it all is okay. And again, sex work does not have to be something bad or demonic. It's what people who are in power or get power from it, or, they get money from it, and then it's what they choose to do with it. You can have a bunny ranch and still respect your girls, you know, and let them make the choices of who they, have as clients and what their limits are. And if you have girls that are interested in different fetishes and kinks, let those girls do that if that's what they choose to do. You don't have to force people to do things. So I just want to be very clear about that. Sex work is not automatically bad. It's what the people in power end up fostering and essentially forcing and doing with the money and doing with the people that doing to the people that they work with and that work for them. For this layout, I asked the question, what is the truth of Caresha's role to Sean Combs, both personal and business? To the left, we have the Ten of Wands in reverse again, and it is representing her personal role to him. So those messages that came out the first time concerning releasing burdens and presenting celebratory energy that is actually rooted in some dark shit or has dark intent, is giving messy, it's giving very messy. And so I'm not even gonna stay on that card very long because more of the elaboration is more so in this Empress card over to the right, which is representing the business role that she has. And it's the Empress sideways, so repeated messages, much like that Ten of Wands there, kind of off the backs of that Ten of Wands in reverse. Presenting oneself as something you are not. Presenting yourself as this motherly, um, collective, like you want to bring people together to be like family and in unity and harmony and everything. This card is sideways because that's not actually what it is. Now pay attention to the fact that we have this war card in the middle, which is representing the duality of her role in her connection with Diddy. So both personal and business, they are very intertwined. So that's why it's kind of hard to read it separately, the business from the personal, because it's intertwined, because they have mixed business and personal together so much that it's literally become one. That's the only thing that's really become one for real. Okay. And so with that said, using this war card here to elaborate on the collectiveness of the personal role and the Ten of Wands in reverse and the business role with the Empress card sideways. This war card is giving that Caresha is meant to be like a hostess to a party, if you will. The welcoming committee of the party. The person that makes sure everyone is accommodated. Would you like fish or chicken? Would you like a glass of champagne? Would you like any hors d'oeuvres? Where would you like to sit? Guide me. I'll follow you. Sit where you please. Da 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 da. Thank you. Come again. But in actuality, she is hiding and being like a mask. She's being, or has been, a personified mask to a whole lot of chaos. And she's been playing a role to make sure everything looks legit, make sure everything looks peaceful and harmonious, and nothing's wrong here. And if you can zoom in when you watch this video, zoom in on the imagery of that card, because it's a girl flying over the land, like she's, flying, having a good time, but also like she just slayed a bunch of people and is about to continue to slay a bunch of people. And if you look at the ground, it's a whole lot of men laid out on the ground. Again, this is another painting here where that is not the full portrait. The full portrait is not present on the card, and that is not a coincidence. Because again, making things seem like things that they are not. So at first glance, it can look like that girl is just flying above everything, having a great time, woohoo, jumping in the air, and that those men are just laid out, relaxing, maxing all cool. And in actuality, if you zoom out and you get the full picture of that card, those men have been taken down. Those men have been slain. There is a war going on, and that has happened. And it's giving me that this is both at parties and celebratory events, and also in the midst of personal interactions, family interactions, friend interactions. And I'm also picking up at certain like actual business events, appearances, and things of that nature. And it's sideways because the chaos has runneth over and things are being exposed. And it's been slowly being exposed where it's become harder for her to play that role efficiently one way or another. And that could be coming off the backs of an internal war going on with her because, like I said, she has likely pissed off a deity or a few. And Diddy likely has two, but this is a little bit more focused on her perspective, her role in the situation. Again, allegedly. Again, there's this competitive nature coming up, and there is a harem vibe coming up here. So like polygamy, polyamory, poly relationships, whereas with other women that Diddy has been involved with, other women that Diddy has moving and shaking for him, being workers for him and or partners with him, be it sexually, romantically, whatever have you, or even business. It seems as though Caresha often or has often presented herself like, oh, hey girl, yeah, everything's cool. We friends. Yeah, you can talk to me. It's all good. No sweat. But then she turns around and she stabs him in the back. And she creates issues. She creates triangulation, creates chaos. And that seems to also have played a part in why the slip is showing, why certain things are being exposed, because she's done too much. Her backstabbing those girls and like off the backs of making fraudulent connections with them, like pissing people off and having them spill tea one way or another, be it through arguing with each other or going to vent to other people or leaving and turning informant in some form of way. So yeah, she was supposed to be the mask to cover up all of the heinous activity and dark matter going on. But it seems like she got too big for her britches, way too obsessed over competition, way too drunk on, whatever power she felt like she got from her position, and just started being an agent of chaos and a snake. And all that snake agent of chaos behavior plays a large part in a lot of the exposure that's going on now. Because it seems as though it was kind of easy for Diddy to get over on people himself. Because it seems like he's mastered his sociopathy, if you will. But then bringing Caresha into the mix and her having this way of first appearing to be very sweet and dainty and happy-go-lucky and things, and then it's like a natural transparency that she has where she can't keep the mask up for long. She can't keep the front up for long. And that has ended up burning bridges with people, even as it concerns Diddy. Whereas people are not only going after Diddy or having the intent to expose things to expose Diddy, they are also targeting her. And it's like she's ruined relationships and connections and allyships that he's had with people through not being able to keep up the front. Because it seems like she comes from a place of being so desperate for power that she ends up just raging war on people. Because it's like she's had the intent or the mindset to want to throw rocks and hide her hand, but she forgets that she has a bucket of rocks still sitting next to her, even though she put her hand behind her back. So yeah, your hand's behind your back now, but you still got the bucket of rocks sitting right next to you, sir. So we know you did it. We know it was you that threw the rock, ma'am. But that's that delusion. And there's also the selfishness there, that 10 of Wands is also re-emphasizing the selfishness where she does things and her response and leading message may be, oh, I did this for us. I did this to help us. But in actuality, she's doing it for herself. And she's not thinking about how her actions and reactions end up affecting other people. Like Diddy himself. And as Spirit is saying to me, also his kids, not considering his kids, and also not considering the mothers of his kids, which is also what the Empress card is representing, the mothers of Diddy's kids, and how her actions and reactions have affected them and will affect them. Child, it's a whole lot of going on. It's a whole lot of going on. Shout out to that guy too. I can't think of his name at the moment, but if y'all know it, drop it in the comments. Shout out to him too. The whole lot of going on, boy. But yeah, again, allegedly. Shout out to Alexander Rogers. And I just want to clarify one more thing before we hop into the next layout. As I'm recording it right now, I don't have the elaboration card for the war card up there on the screen, but in the final edit, that card will be up there, and the card is the Temperance card. So I asked for an elaboration for that war card just to get some extra clarity as to what it's representing and the messages of it, and what came out is the Temperance card. That's important to note because that Temperance card kept popping out galore for many different reasons. And also, in this particular layout, it is representing the mask that I've been talking about this whole time. What Caresha was supposed to be doing. She was supposed to be keeping the balance of everything. She was supposed to be the representation of harmony, of everything's fine. Everyone's a unit. Everyone's in harmony. Kumbaya, kumbaya. Nothing's wrong here. And as I said, that war card represents the failure of that. Okay, now, we'll stick a pin in that Temperance card. We're gonna go ahead and hop into the next layout. All right, so for this layout, I asked, what are her true intents for Diddy? And what are his true intents for her? And what are their mutual intents for each other? So to the left, we have Caresha's true intents, allegedly. Caresha's true intents for Diddy. And we have the Temperance card, and it is sideways. So this is giving that that wolf in sheep's clothing energy, but it's coming from that state of delusion. It seems as though in her mind, she meant to get involved with him and basically lead with her sacral chakra. So sexuality, sensuality, fun, leisure, creativity. Being overly dependent on those aspects, like as long as I keep him happy, as long as I make sure that he's having fun, he's going to do whatever I want him to do. As long as I keep him sexed up and do whatever sexual favors he wants me to do, he's going to continue to bring quote unquote balance to her life, which is more so from her perspective in a financial, materialistic lifestyle sense, a superficial sense, not an actual authentic, spiritual, divine type of balance. This is very transactional. This is coming from a very transactional perspective. But again, it seems as though she is very wrapped up in delusion. So, okay, so just keep that in mind with it, right? It's also sideways because with that delusion, she don't realize that because she's overly dependent on the strength of her sacral chakra, that causes her to also be an agent of chaos in different ways, negligent in different ways, irresponsible, a liability in different ways. So the balance that she's been thinking or quote unquote intending to bring is not stable So she's come with this imagery of stability, balance, all of that, one way or another. But in actuality, she is the straw that has broke the camel's back. Tisk. Now, over to the right, we have the Three of Wands, which represents Diddy's intent for her. And with this Three of Wands, it seems as though he's always intended to puppeteer her one way or another, to use her as a mover and a shaker, to use her as a mask, to use her as a way to paint this picture that, again, everything's fine. And also feeding this false sense of virtue. Again, feeding the public this imagery that, oh, we doing whole shit. Oh, we perpetuated all this whole shit and gangster shit throughout the years, and it brings you a life of luxury and happiness. You can do all this questionable stuff and just be successful and harmonious, and everything's great and fine and dandy. And much like how a lot of people have said that Diddy has attached himself to a lot of younger people and or people who seem to have more of an influence over the younger audience, it's giving using them, i.e. Caresha, to lead younger people astray so that it can continue to feed his empire. So essentially, he's been using her to feed to the younger public that whole culture is the way to go. Whole culture is the way to be successful. Pimp culture is the way to be successful. Gangster culture is the way to be successful. And at any time, you can just wake up and say, today I'm brother love. And all is well. The gods are not pleased, honey. And that center card there, also, before I get there, let me point out too, and if you've seen other videos of mine where that Three of Wands has come up, that particular Three of Wands from the Santa Muerte deck has come up. If you zoom in, that skeletal bird is holding a little booklet. And on the cover of that booklet, it says virtue. Remember what I said about people, like it being so simple. Like, you don't have to be a part of a cult. You don't have to sign your name in blood. You don't have to believe in the Illuminati, be a part of the Illuminati. You don't have to mindfully worship the devil or none of that. All it takes for you to do is to sacrifice your virtues, sacrifice morals and values in exchange for superficial gain. And you have just sold your soul. And that has been essentially, allegedly, I'm delivering the messages being channeled through me. Okay. I said it multiple times. I ain't got to keep repeating it. But it seems as though, to feed his empire, feeding the younger audiences, the younger people of the world, these messages that, in a nutshell, simply stated, all you got to do is sacrifice your morals and values. All you got to do is sacrifice your virtues. And then paint this picture of smiling faces and sunlit skies and money and champagne and big parties surrounded by a bunch of people that look like they're having a good time. And you can be successful. And all it does is just feed his ego. It's to feed his ego, feed his pockets. It's a bunch of narcissism. Whole lot of narcissism. And that's a lot of why he is attracted to her and has attracted her. Because remember me saying they mirror each other. So who he is, he sees in her. Who she is, she sees in him. They see each other. And that perfectly segues to the middle card, Vincent van Gogh, his self-portrait. And the name of his self-portrait is Self-Portrait with the Bandaged Ear. And I believe that's because Van Gogh has multiple self-portraits. And this one in particular is the one with the bandaged ear after, there are a couple of different stories on this. One story is he cut his own ear off for a woman. And another story is he got into a fight and his friend cut his ear off. I'd be more inclined to believe the first one, that he cut his ear off for a woman, because that's the one that seems to have more detailing and stuff to it. But yeah, all that being said, this is representing their mutual intent for each other. And Spirit is spitting this out very simply stated. They, again, see each other. Who they are, they see in each other, they mirror to each other. So they both seem to have come into their connection with the intent to get whatever they can out of the other one and then ditch them and play victim. Ditch them and say, oh, she did this to me and that's why she gone. Oh, he did this to me and that's why I left him. And it's like, they felt like it would be surefire because, again, they see each other. Low-key, high-key, they know that, allegedly, they are not good people. And they know that they would give each other a reason at some point to kick them to the curb, to kick the other one to the curb. He knew that at some point she would give him a reason to kick her to the curb, and she knew at some point that he would give her a reason to kick him to the curb or get away from him. The issue is the greed. the obsession over power, the obsession over competition. They were getting so much out of each other, and instead of stopping while they were ahead, they kept it going and kept it going, kept it going, kept it going, kept it going. And essentially, wow, Van Gogh's ear got cut off. It's like they ended up cutting their own noses off to spite their face. So this is also given that things may not be harmonious with them right now. They may very well be beefed out right now. And something about that may also be revealed. So yeah. Whew. So yeah, they had the intents of coming together, parasiting off of each other, and then running off on the plug and being like they did it. So it's quite likely that he might try to put some blame on her for a lot of things. He might indeed try to use her as a scapegoat for a lot of his heinous activity, and it may very well be easy because it seems as though she's been a major mover and shaker in this equation. And she may also try to do the same thing. She may try to play victim and say, oh, he made me do this and this, that, and the third. And it could very well be true that he has victimized her in certain instances, but Spirit is leading me to make it very clear that this is not a Cassie situation. This is not a situation where Caresha is some innocent victim. She had ill intent from the jump. A lot of the things that she's done, she did because she wanted to, because she felt like she was getting things out of it. Power, authority, money, material, status. She herself seems to be very much so like that Knight of Wands was representing her shadow self, an abuser. It just so happens that she met her match. It just so happens that Diddy also met his match, allegedly. So yeah, it seems as though she had already decided the role that she would play before Diddy even presented it to her, because they have very similar mentality. So again, this doesn't seem to be a situation where she was swindled and bamboozled and ever more forced into being a puppet. She knew her role and she played it. She just played herself in the process. And that's very interesting too, because Diddy's a Scorpio and Caresha is an Aquarius. And Aquarius and Scorpio have twin energy as it concerns the shadow selves. The shadow of Aquarius and the shadow of Scorpio are very much so identical. And that's what it's getting here. Now, to conclude this reading and just get a bit of insight on some things that may be to come, influenced by those messages that were coming up concerning that both of them seem to have the intent to come together, do all of this wild stuff, and then kick the other one to the curb and play victim, like the other person did all this to them and made them do it, and da da da. I felt led and guided to ask about some of the nature of that. And also say, don't be surprised if Diddy or someone on behalf of Diddy or someone on behalf of Caresha and or both ends up feuding on social media. So it could be Diddy and Caresha themselves going back and forth on social media, or it could be somebody that is very close to Diddy and somebody that's very close to Caresha, and those two go at it on social media on behalf of Diddy and Caresha. Okay? And don't be surprised that if that is to happen, they end up saying a bunch of things that essentially spill a lot of tea and are of the nature of pointing the finger. Like that gif of all the Spider-Mans standing in a circle pointing at each other. Cause that's what it's given. Now with that said, I asked, will Caresha snitch on Diddy to the feds? And the answer that we got is over to the left, and it's the Ace of Wands. That is a yes card. So it's very possible that Caresha will be taken in, be it through being arrested in question or just being taken in question. And it is very likely that she's going to snitch on him. Now, I have very good reason to believe that Caresha will end up being arrested. And that's from the energy, that's from the messages that have already come out. And we're gonna hold that thought when it gets to the next layout that I have. Okay. Okay. So yeah, it's very possible that Caresha will be arrested and questioned, and it's very possible that she will snitch. I asked, will it be exposed to the public? Will the information that she gives to the feds on Diddy be exposed to the public? And we have the King of Cups, and the King of Cups is a water sign card. Remember, Diddy is a Scorpio. And it's also to be understood that he is a head of an operation. So he is that King of Cups, okay? That King of Cups also represents, yes, the information that Caresha is likely to give to the feds will likely be exposed. Very likely, actually. And it may be like beyond the shadow of a doubt, damaging information that Diddy cannot come back from. That being said, we also have the Wheel of Fortune present as a yes card, and the Wheel of Fortune has this thing of karma. What you put out comes back. What goes up must come down. So that's giving that not only will Diddy's fortune flip upside down, Caresha and a slew of other people's fortunes, based off the information that she gives to the feds, will be turned upside down. That information will be very likely extensively damaging beyond a shadow of a doubt. And it may be a lot of people. Y'all, I just saw 808 as I said that, okay? Uh-huh. And it may be a lot of people that come out to amen the information like, bruh, I know exactly what she's talking about because I was there or I was in the area or you seen this. And people like putting up pictures like, you see that, you see that, you see that. Like, it's going to be something, some information, a lot of information that is undeniable. And there will be other people, very likely, that can vouch and amen for it and confirm that the information is true. Whoo, child. Now, there were some things coming up here like about Caresha being protected in some way. And so it made me ask, will the information that she gives the feds be exposed to the public anonymously? Basically like in the form of, it could be court documents or somebody exposes it and they say Jane Doe gave this information to the feds, or this person who shall remain nameless gave this information to the feds. But they will be talking about Caresha. And off the backs of, like I said, there will be people that come out and able to vouch for the information and amen the information. It may not be that difficult to decipher that Caresha is the Jane Doe. Okay? Okay. And that may also be why she will be heavily protected in some way, because her life will essentially be on the line already, you know? And so, yeah, straight up, the answer to that question, will that information be released anonymously, i.e., in the form of not saying straight up that Caresha is the one that said it? The answer is yes. And for this final card in question, it ain't nothing that we got to beat around the bush about. I asked, will Caresha have to serve any time in prison for her involvements with Diddy? And we got the Temperance card straight up. And this is the only time that this card has came out straight up. I even asked for a confirmation card. I don't have it present here, but I asked for a confirmation card. And it was the Four of Wands right side up. And both of those cards give a definite yes. Not to mention, the Temperance card can also be seen as a Justice card, because it is the card of balance. It is the card of the scales, Libra energy, justice. Okay, so it's very likely as well that Caresha may have to serve some time. And I told y'all this Temperance card had been showing up a lot, coming out, flipping out, all that, a latte. Now, of course, because it is very likely that she will snitch, she may not have to serve a whole lot of time, but this is given that she more than likely will have to serve some time for her involvement. And again, remember that she burned a lot of bridges for herself and Diddy, allegedly. And there's a lot of people exposing things, pressing charges, giving information to the feds that is not only to target Diddy and expose Diddy and hold him accountable, but also to target Caresha and expose her and hold her accountable. So Spirit is also saying, don't be thinking that all of this is just because Diddy got her wrapped up in a bunch of stuff. Caresha has done a lot of things on her own as a decision of her own, allegedly. But that's how it's come up throughout this reading, that while Diddy has probably victimized her in certain instances, overall, she's not a victim. She just met her match. And so did he, through her. Tisk! And child, all of that is truly unfortunate because these people got people that's attached to them, that's dependent on them, that ain't got nothing to do with none of that heinous and malicious and dark stuff. And they got people that care about them that ain't got nothing to do with nothing concerning all that dark and malicious and heinous stuff. And my heart goes out to them, especially because these two have not even considered their shit catching up to them, let alone how it would affect the people who ain't got nothing to do with nothing, that just simply care about them and depend on them. And that's fucked up. And it seems as though a lot of this is rooted in narcissism and selfishness, just self-serving behavior, delusion, just terrible. Just terrible. But with all that being said, child, if I do say so myself, honey, I have milked this cow dry. And I'm thoroughly appreciative of the exchange of vibes. And if you're feeling synchronized, please do me a divine design and like, share, and subscribe so that you can be one of the first to be back through these queenly quotas for the next time. And be sure to bless my comment section with your questions and conversations. And as always, I bid you in all ways light, love, healing, and liberation. Emphasis on liberation. Mwah.